everybody, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com. Thanks for tuning in. And hey, thank you for subscribing or just watching if you haven't subscribed. If you like what you see, please do subscribe. I would appreciate that. Leave me a comment. Tell me where you're from, your name. I'd love to just welcome you to my channel. So thank you again for tuning in. Tonight we're making, honestly, I haven't decided what to call it. My onion is having a sort of a not very nice spot down there, so I want to make sure I cut that out. This is, when I have my little notebook over here where I write down my recipes as I'm developing them, I called this cheesy keto casserole. Keto for ketogenic or low carb. But I don't really love that name, so I'm trying to come up with a different name, although that is actually indicative of what it is. We have a whole bunch of vegetables, mostly non-starchies, because vegetables are carbohydrates. So if you're really trying to stick to low carb, you want to be mindful of not putting in a lot of high carb vegetables. And we have some ground beef and a yummy cheesy sauce. So I'm just going to throw everything in this pan. It's actually really easy, but it does take a little cooking, a little time. So in this big pan, I'm going to make the dish, really. And in this little one, I'm going to make my sauce. And I'm going to attempt to keep both things going at the same time. So I have my heat on about medium-high. I had a tablespoon of ghee, which is clarified butter, removed the milk solids. A tablespoon of ghee in there. And I put in an onion. I'm going to get the onion going. In this pan, I have 2 tablespoons of ghee. You could use grass-fed butter if you are fine with a little bit of dairy. Grass-fed is usually a little easier for people to tolerate. So if you have trouble with dairy and you're willing to try, maybe give grass-fed, some grass-fed dairy a try. There are actually a lot of omega-3s in grass-fed beef products, whether it's the actual meat or the milk products. Some different vitamins that you don't find in conventional beef. So I'm making like a traditional roux with my sauce over here. I have the 2 tablespoons of ghee or butter and 2 tablespoons of arrowroot, and I'm just whisking that together so that it's nice and smooth. I'm going to cook that for a minute while I add my spices, which will be a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, which obviously I'm not measuring. I'm just going to grind some in, and I'm actually going to put some pickled jalapenos in here, so we'll get a little bit of heat from the jalapenos. And I need salt and pepper in this, of course, and it's another one of those that's kind of hardly a recipe. I'm going to give you some guidelines, but you can use really any combination of vegetables that you like. This is 1/8 teaspoon. I tend to do about 1/8 teaspoon at a time. You could easily double this, triple this to feed a crowd. I think if you doubled the meat and veggies, you wouldn't necessarily need to double the sauce, but if you went so far as to triple it, then I would 1.5 times or double the sauce. Okay, so I had salt and pepper, and I also need a 1/2 teaspoon of ground mustard or dried mustard powder in my sauce. I try to put things out of the way when I'm done with them so I remember that I'm done with them. Sometimes the mustard gets a little lumpy, so just kind of work that for a minute. And I try to make my recipes as easy as possible and not use a part of a can of something. So that's what I did here. This recipe calls for an entire can of coconut milk. I'm using Native Forest brand, which is the brand I buy from Thrive Market. I'm going to do a Thrive Market unboxing. I keep forgetting to do it, but I'm going to do it. I put a note in my calendar so the next time I receive a box, I will show you all what I buy, because I know a lot of people that I think would really benefit, save a lot of money if they shopped from Thrive, and they just don't because they're not sure what they would buy. So I'm going to show you. So all we're doing is really chopping our vegetables kind of small and cooking them up. So I've got my sauce over there kind of simmering. You want to cook your starch a little bit, so that's what's happening. I'm cooking up that arrowroot just a little. I realized that, so this is starting to brown a bit in the center, so I want to turn that down and make sure I keep stirring this. I'm going to go ahead at this point and get my meat in there, and everything's just going to cook up together. So I have a pound of grass-fed ground beef. I bought it in bulk last week and had to portion it out into 1 pound packages. So that's what I have here. So I just grabbed that out of my freezer. I know that cooking from scratch is not always easy. It's not always feasible. If you read my blog or subscribe to my newsletter, you've probably seen that I've confessed to cooking chicken nuggets for my kids. If you buy the ones from Whole Foods, they have some good gluten-free ones that are actually real pieces of chicken with pretty pure ingredients, not a whole bunch of starch in the coating, but still. Here I am, this food blogger, and I'm serving my kids frozen chicken nuggets. But sometimes that's what life calls for, and that's where we've been this fall. Honestly, we've been just in a super crazy busy season, and cooking from scratch, it takes more work and it takes more time. And you know, following this paleo diet, we're not using convenience foods, and there are a lot of vegetables involved. There's a lot of chopping. But listen, know that you can start with frozen vegetables. You can, I washed these and there's still some dirt on there. You can buy pre-chopped vegetables if you want to. Yes, they're more expensive. You can buy some canned vegetables. Usually canned and frozen are very high quality because they're picked and frozen at the peak of freshness, or whatever they say in the commercial. So that's okay. Or what I think is a better idea, if you can do this, is buy your, whenever you go to the grocery store, most people shop on the weekend, so do your grocery shopping and come home and chop your vegetables. Chop all your mushrooms, put them in a container. Chop all your squash, put them in a container. And they'll be okay for the week, Monday through Friday in your fridge. So if you just have everything chopped, then your weeknight meal prep is a lot easier. Or sometimes you can just do it in the morning before work. If you're an early bird, you can get up and get that done. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add, I think the next thing I need to add to this is my coconut milk. So I've got a whole can of the full fat coconut milk, all of it. So that's just all gonna melt. I'm gonna keep this on about medium. That slurry of the arrowroot with the ghee is going to make this thicken, plus the cream from the coconut milk will help it to thicken as well. If you really don't like coconut milk, you can use an almond milk. There are lots of different nut milks and things. Just look for pure ingredients. A lot of times there are tons of additives, and you don't want a ton of additives because you probably don't know what they are. They might not be something that is particularly great for your body. So let that cook. I'm going to continue because my meat is about, I got it out yesterday, so it's kind of halfway frozen. I'm having to scrape it a little bit as it browns. I'm going to add a little bit more salt and pepper here in just a second. You want to kind of season as you go. So when you're chopping your broccoli, I want the broccoli to be small and include some stems. It's a different kind of fiber. It's good for your body. You need, you hear a lot about probiotics, which are the good bugs in your gut. Well, those bugs, to survive, need something to eat. So they eat what we call prebiotics. And prebiotics basically are the fibers that you eat. So you need a good variety of fibers so you have a good variety of healthy bugs. So the floret is one type of fiber and the stem is another type. So make sure you get some of both of those in there. I'll turn this back up again. I did wash all these veggies before I turned on the video, so don't worry about that. I wanted a whole head of broccoli, and I had, the store had those broccoli crowns, which are smaller pieces typically. So I just have a couple little sections of that. If you buy frozen broccoli and you open up your bag and there's a whole bunch of stems in there, don't get mad. Be happy that they have given you the stems as well as the florets. So I'm trying to load my pan with the vegetables that need the longest time to cook first, and the ones that need the least amount of time at the end. So that's going to be my squash, my cauliflower rice. If you not following a keto diet, maybe you don't want quite as much fat, and you could use a lighter coconut milk, or you and you're not concerned about your carbs, you could use real white rice, and that would be fine. You just need to cook it about halfway before you add it to your mixture. And you know what? I think I'm not going to use that last piece of broccoli. I think there's plenty of broccoli in there. So then I have one zucchini, average size. So I like to cut it in half and then cut it into little strips, and then I get smaller pieces. Okay, that's the end of my chopping, so I'm going to let him just hang out. Okay, next flavor in my sauce is going to be, I don't want to use that one with the arrowroot, 2 tablespoons of pickled jalapeno juice. So there are a little bit of jalapenos in there. I'm going to add, I wish you could just buy the juice. So 2 tablespoons of that, and then 1 good heaping tablespoon of the peppers. And then the last thing to add will be our cheese. Now, if you cannot tolerate any dairy, this sauce is really tasty, just like it is. You might want to add a little bit more pepper, a little bit more salt. Maybe you like some Italian seasoning. You could add all sorts of different herbs and spices to that, and it would taste really great. But we can do a little bit of dairy, so we're going to have a little bit of dairy and give this a taste. Alright, so the beef is almost cooked, but not quite. So we'll let that keep browning. This is one of my favorite kitchen tools. I have an article on my website, not an article, like a page, a helpful page up at the top called Ingredients and Resources, and it lists, my favorite ingredients that I think you need to have for a paleo kitchen, and some of the kitchen tools that I find pretty indispensable. And that bench scraper is one of them. I use it for all sorts of things. If you've watched my autoimmune paleo tortilla video, I really have to have it for that, to once I roll out the tortillas, to pick them up off the counter and get them in the pan. But it just helps. I don't have to get a plate out or a piece of parchment or something to grate my cheese onto. I can just grate it right onto the counter. I don't have any raw chicken or anything on here. It's fine. Just grate my cheese right onto the counter, and then I can use my bench scraper to scrape it up. So that was 1 package of grass-fed cheddar. I don't mean this in kind of a snarky way, but you know, cheddar cheese is not supposed to be orange. The orange kind, they put coloring in to make it orange. So even if you don't go so far as to buy grass-fed, maybe just look for a white cheddar that doesn't have that coloring in it. So I just want about 1/4 cup of this. This is Pecorino Romano instead of Parmesan. I think Parmesan, I could be wrong. I think Parmesan is cow's milk cheese, but Pecorino is definitely sheep, sometimes goat. And a lot of times people that can't tolerate cow's milk cheeses can tolerate goat cheese, sheep's milk cheese, that sort of thing. So the flavor profile is very similar to Parmesan, and you can sub them out. And it's typically a little bit less expensive as well. So that's a win-win-win. All right, so I'm done with my cheese. We'll just package that up and save the rest for another time. Now my ground beef is all broken up. There's still a little bit of pink, but that can continue to cook while I add the rest of these veggies. I'm going to turn that up. My zucchini. And this is 12 ounces of cauliflower rice. My recipe says 10 to 12 ounces because if you buy a bag, like an individual bag of cauliflower rice at the grocery store, they're typically 10 ounces, sometimes 12. I buy a big bag from Costco. I think it's like 3 pounds or something. And so I just weighed some out in my bowl. And you want to defrost it a little bit just so it will cook faster. I used to buy the Bird's Eye brand from just a regular grocery store, and they're in that bag that you can microwave in the bag, which I'm sure is terrible for you, but you can do that. Otherwise, you know, just dump some out into a bowl and let it sit on the counter for a little bit, or, you know, zap it in the microwave, put it on the stove if you don't have a microwave. Just let it defrost a little bit before you add it to your dish. So I'm so glad I used my great big stock pot here, because when I have the extra space, I just add extra veggies, and that is extra yummy. Okay, so back to our sauce. Start to get our cheese in. And actually my package of cheddar was just 7 ounces. The recipe calls for 8. 7, 8. It makes no difference whatsoever. It won't affect the flavor. It won't affect the texture. It'll be great. Just the little package that I bought was 7 ounces instead of 8. Not sure why. So all we're going to do is get this cheese melted. Get the veggies all cooked the way we like, which, you know, I like a little bit of that caramelization because it tastes so good. I know that is not the best for you, but it tastes really, really great. And I think all the phytonutrients in our vegetables will counteract any negative impact of that little bit of browning. I'm just going to give this a taste for seasoning. I have a feeling I'm going to need some more salt and pepper. No more pepper. So look, my husband just called. It'll take him at least 30 minutes to get home. It's raining, it's cold, it's dark. So traffic is always worse under those conditions. So I'm going to turn my oven on 350. This is done whenever your vegetables are done to your liking, your meat is browned or cooked through, you know, no longer pink. You add your sauce, you stir it all together, and that's it. But you can park it in the oven. It'll get a little extra bubbly on top, and that's just extra delicious. So it's really flexible. Let me turn my oven on and give my sauce a taste. It's really good. It's not at all spicy. The jalapenos. I'm not a spicy girl, so don't think, oh, it's not spicy for her. If it's not spicy for me, it wouldn't be spicy for anybody. My kids eat this with no problem. And they actually really like it. So some friends of ours who have a son that is, I think, like a day older than my son. It's funny, the mom and dad are both really tall, and the son is, I don't know, 6'2" or 6'3" or something. He's really big. And my son, I'm 5'3", just about 5'3", and he is just about my height. So these kids are like a foot apart. It's hilarious. They played each other in basketball one year. Their teams played each other. And of course they put, you know, his friend guarding my son, and it's like this giant guarding this little kid. But anyway, so he obviously has had growth spurts faster than my son. And his mom was telling me that she would just make like a big casserole. And they're not gluten-free or anything, so she would make like a baked ziti or something like that, and stick it in the fridge. It wasn't for dinner, nothing. It was for him. It was for the son. And so all through the day, he'd go and fix himself a big bowl of this casserole. Well, my son is finally getting to that growth spurt stage, and he's wanting to eat a lot. And so I made a baked spaghetti, and I did it with spaghetti squash. It was delicious, and I thought, oh, it's going to be awesome. You know, I told him I'm going to stick this in the fridge. This is going to be your casserole. You can eat it whenever you want. And we had had this dish a couple nights before, and he said, you know, I'd really rather have that one. I'm like, wow, okay, so the baked spaghetti, yeah, I had spaghetti squash, but aside from that, it was spaghetti sauce and a whole bunch of cheese and, you know, eggs and stuff. And he said he preferred this one, which is just so full of vegetables. So I was thrilled. That's a big endorsement from a teenage boy. So I hope you'll give this one a try. It's really tasty. We're going to let it cook for a little bit, and I'll see you back in a few minutes. Okay, so my veggies and meat, hello, have been cooking for about 10 minutes, and I got a little of that browning there in the center of my pan, and I just don't ever want to lose that. So I want to deglaze my pan and scrape that up, because that's yummy flavor that I want in my dish. So you could use water, you could use beef broth, chicken broth. If I had a carton of broth in my fridge, I would have used that for sure, but I did not. So I used some coconut aminos because that tastes yummy, and my whole family loves that flavor. I need a hot pan. So I just deglazed my pan with the coconut aminos. So then, excuse me, my cheese sauce goes in. Y'all, are you recovered from Halloween? Did you eat a lot of Halloween candy? No judgment if you did. We actually went to some friend's house this year. Actually, my kids and my husband have done that for a couple years, but I have stayed home because I just feel bad not passing out candy. And this year I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to my friend's house as well. So I don't have to buy any candy. They don't have it in the house. Of course, my kids' candy is here, but I don't dare eat any of theirs. So I've actually been pretty good on the candy front, but I have been baking more, which means sampling more. So I have been eating a little bit more sugar than is really good for me. So I got to get back into my keto goodness here. So this will be a good jump start. All right, it's turned off. Let me just give it a taste, make sure everything is seasoned okay, and then I'm going to stick it in the oven. I really love it. It's so good. You can eat it right now, but like I said, I want to stick it in the oven. So when I dish it out, I'll show it to you. The little bit of jalapenos in there are so good. That is the flavor. It's that pickled flavor that is really delicious. So don't skip that step. All right, I'm going to shove this in the oven. Okay, so we're ready. It was actually ready when it was on the stove. I showed you before. I explained the husband was not home yet, so I stuck it in the oven at 350, and it just was bubbling away in there, flavors melding together and getting even more delicious. So if this did not have enough vegetables for you, you could definitely put a green salad on the side. But frankly, you know what? This is great for us. We had, what do we have in here? We had broccoli, cauliflower rice, mushrooms, carrots, onions, and zucchini. So we had 6 veggies in there, the ground beef, and then the cheese sauce. So it's jam-packed full of veggies. Oh, you know, I'm going to make it pretty. Hold on. So I have chives outside, but it is super cold and gross outside. So I had some green onions in the fridge. So I'm just going to snip a few green onions just for something pretty and fresh on top. And of all things, my daughter, who was one of my onion haters, has started enjoying green onions. I'm not sure when that started, but happy for it. So that's it. This is our cheesy keto casserole. I might come up with a different name. The recipe is linked down in the notes, and you can find all the details on the blog. So again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. I'd love for you to leave a comment just so I can say hi, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time.